Congklak or Congkak is a game originally played in Malaysia, Singapore, Indonesia, Brunei, and Southern Thailand. In Java, it is called Dakon. Congkak is oftenly played by girls, and it also has simple rules. Congkak boards are often made of teak or mahogany wood, and these are often elaborately carved into various shapes. The word Congkak is believed to originate from Old Malay word Konggak, which means mental calculation, and it is mainly practiced in this game. It is regarded that an efficient player who mentally calculates a few steps in advance will have an advantage in collecting points to win the game. The word Konggak or Congklak also means cowrie shells, which are used in the game.
The objective of the game is to capture more seeds in the star than the opponent. The game only needs 2 players.
Congklak is a game that don't have a definite court layout, so it can be played anywhere you like with your friends. It can be played near shore where you can get seashells or near rivers where you can see pebbles mostly.
The materials needed in this game are Congklak board and 98 small shells, seeds or stones.
Players take turns moving the seeds except in the first move, beginning with the hole closest to his or her big hole. After this first simultaneous movement, once the last seed falls into an empty hole, the player's first turn is over and the opponent of the player starts his or her turn. On a turn, a player chooses one of the 7 holes under their control. The player removes all seeds from this hole and distributes them in each hole clockwise from this hole in a process called sowing. Sowing skips an opponent's big hole but doesn't skip a player's own big hole. If a player is unable to fill a hole with 7 seeds, that hole is considered sunog, and all excess seeds are returned to the big hole. The round begins with a player with no sunog holes taking his or her turn sowing first. If the last seed falls into an occupied hole, all the seeds are removed from that hole and are sown starting from that hole. The process continues until the last seed falls into a player's store or an empty hole. If the last seed sown falls into a player's own big hole, they immediately earn another turn, which can begin at any of the 7 holes under their control. The game ends when a player has no seeds in his hole at the start of his turn. The remaining seeds are awarded to his opponents.
Congklak is one of the traditional games in Indonesia. It is played by 2 players. How to play? First, count 7 shells into each of the holes on your side of the board. Leave your storehouse at the end empty. In the beginning, you may play together or you can decide who will go first. The players take all of the shells out of any hole on their side of the board. Move clockwise around the board and drop 1 shell into each hole in an effort to reach your own storehouse at the end of the board. Do not drop a shell into your opponent's storehouse. If the last hole into which you drop a shell has shells in it, take all of the shells in that hole and continue moving around the board just like you did in the beginning of the game. If the last hole into which you drop the shell is your storehouse, you get another turn. Take all of the shells out of any hole on your side of the board and continue to play moving around the board clockwise. If the last hole is empty and is on your side, take this last shell and all of the shells from your opponent's hole, which is directly across from you, and put them all into your storehouse. It is now your opponent's turn. The round ends when one player runs out of shells on his or her side of the board. You win the game if you have the most shells in your storehouse.